עלינו ועכו ישראל, חן וחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועכו, עלינו ועכו ישראל.
כל העולם כולו גשצה מאוד, גשצה מאוד, גשצה מאוד, כל העולם כולו גשצה מאוד, גשצה מאוד, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל, והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל. The whole entire world is a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge. The whole entire world is a very narrow bridge, a very narrow bridge. But the main thing to recall is to have no fear at all. But the main thing to recall is to have no fear at all. כל העולם כולו גשצה מאוד, גשצה מאוד, גשצה מאוד. כל העולם כולו גשצה מאוד, גשצה
Go ahead, Jeff.
Shabbat Shalom. So good to see you all here. My name is Jeff Pass. I'm representing the Board of Trustees of Temple Beth Israel. And before our service begins, I'd like to direct your attention to our emergency exits. There are exits at each side of the bima, behind the curtains. Also, there's two at the north end of the social hall. And there are two exits through the kitchen over there. At the back of the sanctuary, there are exits to the main door through which you entered, and there are exit doors at each side of the lobby. The fire extinguisher is located just inside the doors to the sanctuary, near where you entered. Please familiarize yourself with the exits nearest to you, which are also shown on the card in front of you, where the prayer books are located. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. It's good to be with you, and with you, and with you who are online. It's good to be with you. And this is also part 2 of our, I believe, our 44th annual Interfaith Exchange with Claremont Presbyterian Church. And so we welcome pastors from the church. Karen and Brian, thank you for being with us, and we welcome you. We're going to start on page 10 of our Siddur with Yedid Nefesh.
So Yedid Nefesh translates to heartfelt friend or beloved friends. So anytime we think of our neighbors over on Mountain Avenue at Claremont Presbyterian Church, we consider them to be Yedidim, what is it? Yedidot nefeshot or Yedidim nefeim, whatever it is. Heartfelt friends, and we are so appreciative of their joining us here tonight for our Interfaith Exchange. Yedid nefesh av Yedid nefesh av harachaman shochav decha el ritzonecha v'shochav decha ya la 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 el ritzonecha ya
We turn to pages 2 and 3. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them. So may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. I invite those in the congregation, if you're able, to please rise as we bless our Shabbat lights.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kineshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
You may be seated. We turn to pages 20 and 21. Before we enter into Lachadodi, it is our custom to take a moment and reflect on the week that has passed, to think about last Shabbat and the days up until now, to pause on each day, its blessings and its challenges, to take a breath. And then we'll come back on page 20. We'll sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. 1, 2, 5, and 9. They're numbered to make it easier for you. And so please join. When we get to verse 9, I'll invite those of you in the congregation to rise and face the doors from which we enter. Those of you at home to face the doors to your home, to welcome the Shabbat presence into your heart and into your Shabbat. L'chadodi.
L'chadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nehekabelah. L'chadodi likrat kalai alalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nehekabelah. Adonai echad, u'shmo echad, l'shem multiferet, v'litchila. L'chadodi likrat kalai, alalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat, nehekabelah. L'chadodi likrat kalai, alalai, 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 b'nei Shabbat.
Allah
בשלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. טוב אמוני, עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. ונתתי לקראת חלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה. ונתתי לקראת חלה, יללה, 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 בני שבת נקבלה.
You may be seated. I'd like to invite the lay leaders of both Temple Beth Israel and Claremont Presbyterian Church to offer greetings.
Shabbat Shalom. Good evening and welcome. Claremont Presbyterian congregants, Temple Beth Israel congregants, honored clergy and guests, online and in person. I'm Laura Zuckerman, President of the Board of Trustees of Temple Beth Israel. It's an honor to give these brief comments tonight at our annual Interfaith Exchange, especially because, as the rabbi said, we've been doing this for 44 years. Last Sunday morning, in the sacred, beautiful space of CPC, we joined together in prayer, song, text, and meaningful interpretations of those texts. And tonight we'll do the same at Temple Beth Israel. The challenges, losses, and tensions of our times and in our lives move us to seek strength and solace from our shared Judeo-Christian histories and teachings and from each other. The ethical principles of our two religions, which guide us, also bind us, acting with kindness, doing unto others, welcoming the stranger, healing the world, making it whole. Our two houses of faith, each built on tradition, innovation, and holiness, are shaped by our extraordinary clergy who inspire and comfort us. We both offer learning and liturgy that helps us to grow, understand, and respect all religions, and to advocate for those less fortunate. May tonight's service remind us that we are here, despite all that has happened in the last 2 years, and that we are still working together to heal the world. On behalf of TBI, I thank CPC for this sacred partnership and thank you all for being here tonight. Now, I'm very honored to introduce Teddy Warner, who, as an ordained clerk of session is equivalent to our Board of Trustees, supports the session and the pastors. Welcome, Teddy.
Thank you, Laura. She speaks so well. Good evening. It's such a delight to be back here after 2 years of not being together at all. We at Claremont Presbyterian Church always look forward to this exchange, this long-standing exchange between our congregations for many reasons. Sharing our common heritage, learning about different traditions, generating understanding among us all, visiting and catching up with our friends from the temple, and of course, sharing delicious food together. A number of years ago, when Gordon Douglas was the clerk of session, he wrote a brief history of this exchange, and I'd like to share a little bit about from what he wrote. The year before the exchange began, probably in 1978, CPC's women's group was invited with others to a meal at TBI to learn about the Jewish festival. Ann McIntyre, then chair of our mission commission, liked it so much that she proposed to Reverend Jim Angel that CPC reciprocate. Jim responded, they will never come. However, shortly after that, there were incidents in Claremont and Los Angeles involving anti-Semitic attacks on synagogues and graffiti on homes and offices in the area. This led Reverend Angel to seek Rabbi Mendel at the temple to express support. All this led to agreement among Reverend Angel, Rabbi Mendel, and Ann McIntyre to invite the CPC congregation to TBI on Friday night in February 1979, and the TBI congregation to CPC on Sunday. Over the years, the exchanges have included many events and activities, such as babysitting for each other during High Holy Days, joint youth groups, adult Bible studies, educational discussions, and musical events, which brings me to an open invitation to all of you. Jerry DeMasi, our music director and organist, has composed a pandemic requiem which reflects the many stages and emotions of the COVID pandemic. Jerry, our pastors and leaders, see this as part of our church's efforts to assist the congregation and the community in coping with the many challenges of the pandemic and to commemorate those whom we've lost. This event will be held on the evening of April 10th and will be designed to reflect the experience of the entire community from a variety of perspectives, including scripture readings, comments from various local officials, and readings of news accounts. We will be following appropriate health guidelines to keep our participants and the audience safe as possible, and singers should be vaccinated in order to participate. You are all invited to participate in our choir. If you are interested, choir rehearsals are on Thursday evenings at 7:30, both online and in person. And the CPC website and also Cantor Bush have Jerry's contact information if you're at all interested. It really will be a wonderful event, a whole community-wide event. And we do so hope that we can have our exchange all together again next year.
We are going to continue on page 26. I'm going to invite Camille Mann to come up and lead us.
Yikata vekata shemei rabba.
Amen.
Be'ama divra hirte ve'am lichma hute. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach. Le'olam ulamei amaya. Yibarach, Yibarach v'ishtabach. V'yipa'ar v'yirman v'yinaseh. V'yihadar v'yithaleh v'yithalah. Shemei d'kiddushah בריחו לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה וחמתה תאמירה במה וימרו
Please rise if you're able for Baruch Hu. I'm just going to read Baruch Hu. 1, 2, 3.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach, Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Praise Adonai to whom praise is due forever. Praise be Adonai to whom praise is due now and forever.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Do you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed Le'olam Va'ed Yadadai-dai-dai 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 Yadadai-dai-dai.
You may be seated. Last 3 lines in the Hebrew on page 30, El Chai V'Kayam.
El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Ata Adonai Amariv Aravi.
Amen. Page 32.
So earlier this week, many of us celebrated a special day. It was all about love. So in our tefillah, in our sacred prayers, in the morning and in the evening, we also mentioned love, but in the context of how the Holy One of Blessing, how God shows love for us through giving us Torah. So we will continue page 32, right at the top. Ahavat Olam. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu lemadeta Al kain, al kain, al kain, al kain Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu v'kum ותסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Shemo.
אוהב עמו ישראל.
Please rise, page 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glory. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
We continue on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, וחיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך, ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות להם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
Thank you very much. Take your book from you. Good job. Invite Pastor Brian to lead us on page 39.
Yes, page 39, and it's the second reading. At the indented parts, you are invited to join with me. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
We continue with the words of that song at the sea, Mi Chamocha, proclaiming our freedom and also our trust and faith in the Holy One. Mi Chamocha, Vaylimad Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Bedar Bakodesh, Norah Tehillah, Osei Feleh. Same again. Mi Chamocha, Vaylimad Adonai, Mi Chamocha, Bedar Bakodesh, Norah Tehillah, Osei Feleh. Malchutcha ra'u v'anecha, Bokeyam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Ze Eli anu. Ve'ameru Adonai nimloch le'olam va'ed. Mi chamocha, Mi chamocha, Vaylimad Adonai, Mi chamocha, Nedar bakodesh, Norah tehillah, Osei Feleh. Norah tehillah, Osei Feleh. Norah tehillah, Osei Feleh. V'ne'emar ki v'adar Adonai et Yaakov ugalo me'ad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
Gal Yisrael.
Amen. Page 43 at the top of the page, Let There Be Love. Then it moves over to the page 42 for the Hebrew text.
Should all be able to join in most of this. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Ashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Ashkivenu, Lechaim. V'ha'amidenu, Shomrenu Lechaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Ashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Ashkivenu, shalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Baruch atah Adonai, aporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Amen.
Ahad Ha'am once wrote that more than the Jewish people has kept the Shabbat has kept the Jewish people. We hold that sense by taking that breath, by having that pause in our week, by connecting with tradition and with the Holy One and with community. The Shabbat sustains us, our own souls, but also the soul of the Jewish people as well. I'd like to invite Austin Handley to... Yeah? Oh, sorry. Hold on, Austin. We're going to show a video first, and then Austin Handley will come up and lead us.
So let me just say a brief word about this video. There are two videos that you'll see this evening. One was prepared by the choir of Claremont Presbyterian Church, one by the choir of Temple Beth Israel. Although we are here in terms of the leadership of our two institutions, our choirs who have sung together on occasions such as this one and at CPC on Sunday for 42 of those 44 years, I would venture to say. And though we still have not been able to meet together, we look forward to perhaps joining together for the Requiem that Teddy mentioned in April. But certainly may this be the last commemoration of our relationship that we have to have virtual components of for the very, very, very first, the future, the le'olam ba'ed, forever and ever. May we never have to be virtually connected and to be really humanly connected from this moment on. But with that, I welcome the choir from CPC for their contribution.
Free.
Now I invite Austin to join us up here. And we're going to continue on page 46 with our Amidah. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit.
Austin, what's your number? One, two, three, and
Adonai Sefatay Tiftach Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu v'Imateinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur v'Hanara El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Konei Hakol V'Zocher Chasdei Avod V'Yamad U'Mevi Gulan Livnei V'Neihem L'man Shema Be'ahava Melech Ozer U'Mashiach U'Magid Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayei Hakol Atah Ra'u L'Hoshia Mashiv HaRuach U'Mari HaGashem Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed Mechayei Hakol B'Rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rovech Cholim U'Matir Asurim U'Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot U'Mido Melech Melech Mimitu Mechayeh U'Matzmiach Yeshua V'Namanata L'Chachayot HaKol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh HaKol.
Page 52. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please take a few moments for silent prayer for the text of your own heart, and then there'll be a musical contribution from Dr. Randy Polovoy.
Shabbat Shalom to everybody out there in attendance tonight and virtually, and to our friends at Claremont Presbyterian Church. Shabbat Shalom. The piece I'm going to play is typically played around Thanksgiving, but I think you could certainly make a case that it fits in with the theme of community worship, of being together, and fellowship. So this is We Gather Together.
Thank you so much, Randy. We conclude our Amidah, standing prayer section, with the TBI choir's contribution, Yu L'Ratzon, which you'll find in your Sidurim on page 62 towards the bottom.
May the words of my mouth
Imre fiveg only be,
and the meditations of my heart
Lefanecha Adonai,
be acceptable unto you.
So this is the part of our service that we usually call Rabbi Reverend. And so I'm going to stand over there and invite Pastor Karen, Reverend Sapio to come join up here. Tall, but not that tall. So our Torah portion this week is Ki Tisa, and in this Torah portion, there are a lot of different things that are happening, but probably the most dramatic piece of what happens is Moses comes down the mountain from having received the first set of commandments, and when he gets down the mountain, he's been gone a little longer than the people thought. They started getting a little restless, and they've built a golden calf, and they're dancing around it. It's like a rave out there in the desert, and they're dancing around the calf, and Moses is not happy, right? And he takes the tablets that he has, and he breaks them. He throws them down, and then he has a problem because he was supposed to bring the people commandments, so Moses has to go back up the mountain and get another set of tablets. And one of the things I found interesting, and we're going to riff on a little bit this evening, is that there's a tradition in the Jewish rabbinic tradition teaches that tries to answer the question, what happened to those broken tablets, to the ones that Moses threw down? And the answer that the Talmud gives in Baba Batra is that they are carried along with the new set of tablets, the new commandments. I don't know that they can see that online or not. I don't know how that plays out. But they are carried in the Ark of the Covenant with them in the desert, and then eventually find their place in the Temple of Jerusalem, both the broken tablets and the whole tablets. And you might think that, this is a symbol of them, the Israelites, disregarding the covenant, that you'd want to leave them behind, you'd want to bury them. But this tells us we don't get to leave that behind. We carry it with us. Brokenness and wholeness exist side by side. And anybody who's suffered loss knows that the whole and the broken live side by side all the time in our lives. It was actually Rabbi Menachem Mendel of Kotsk who said, "There's nothing more whole than a broken heart." And so we deal with this idea of brokenness. When we blow the shofar, that middle note, shvarim, means broken, right? We start with the whole note, and then we have the broken note, and then another whole note. We break a glass at a wedding, right, to remind us that the world is broken. We built brokenness in to Jewish ritual to recognize that the world is broken. And Leonard Cohen said very well, everything has a crack in it. That's where the light gets in. And so we deal with this idea of brokenness and carrying that brokenness forward with us on our journey, which journey was our theme on Sunday. Right. So carrying that brokenness with us on our journey. And so I'm going to turn it to Karen to talk about how brokenness or how carrying those broken pieces might be part of the way that Christian narrative carries some of this stuff forward as well.
Thank you, Rabbi. So when Jonathan told me what Torah portion was set for this week and what portion of that he would highlight, the idea of the story of the golden calf, the golden calf incident, I guess that's what you'd call it if you're going to write a novel about it. He asked, do you have a similar story, or do you have ways that same idea of taking the broken pieces along with you? Do you have anything in your own tradition that that picks up on that idea. And so I started to think, well, do our scriptures have a similar story to the golden calf story? And the closest one I could think of is a story that's told in several of the Gospels about Peter and Jesus. So backstory is that as Jesus is being an itinerant teacher and healer and going around the countryside, he chooses 12 disciples to travel along with him and to learn from him and then to carry things on later. And as the story is progressing, it's kind of shaping up that Peter's kind of the star student, the star pupil, the one that keeps showing up in either very close to Jesus or in some sort of semi-leadership role. But then when Jesus is arrested and he's gone, Peter hangs around to see what's going to happen, and he's kind of eavesdropping, trying to see what's going on, where he might be. And some folks say to him, "Hey, aren't you friends with Jesus?" And he just kind of gets this deer in the headlights and says, "No, I don't know him at all. Never met him." And then somebody else says, "No, but surely you know him, because I can tell that you're Galilean, just like him." And he goes like, No, I've not met him." And then somebody says like, "No, I'm sure I saw you with him." And he really triples down and says, "I'm telling you, I don't know him." And then he hears the rooster crow, which is something Jesus said would happen, and he remembers that he's denied Jesus. So I see that as sort of a similar kind of story to the golden calf story. Moses is gone. The people are kind of afraid, don't know what's going to happen. Jesus gets arrested. And in both of those stories, the people and then Peter, sort of representative of the disciples, acts out of fear and anxiety, and in the clinch, they can't quite muster up the faith that they need. And yet, then the part about the carrying it on is that then later in the Gospels, especially in Mark's Gospel, when they're telling the story of Easter morning, and they discover that the tomb is empty and there's this angel there, the angel says to the women who discover the empty tomb, "Go and tell the disciples and Peter that I'm back, or that Jesus is back." And I've heard whole sermons on that little phrase, "and Peter," about how important it was that the angel said, "Tell the disciples, including Peter, and Peter." Even though he's messed up, even though 3 days ago he denied that he even knew Jesus, he's still part of this good news. He's still embraced by what's about to happen. And that's sort of our version of like taking the broken piece with us, because in some ways it would have, just like you said, it would have been easier just to kind of bury the broken pieces and we will never speak of this again. It would have been perhaps easier to just say, "Hey, Peter disqualified himself. He doesn't get to be part of this anymore."
We don't talk about Peter.
We don't talk about Peter. I like it. That would have been the easier way to go in a lot of ways. And yet Peter is included, and then in the first book that comes after the Gospels, in the book of Acts, we see Peter once again kind of a more mature and seasoned leader for the group. And he's the leader. He continues to be a leader throughout the rest of the story. And even though we're Presbyterians and don't really do Vatican that much, the story is that it's St. Peter's bones who are in the foundations of St. Peter's Cathedral. So, the idea that this person who denied Jesus is like at the very foundation of one of the key central symbols of worldwide Christianity. I think that's sort of our version of taking the broken pieces with us. But I think it also says something about the nature of God. When you told me what portion we were reading tonight or was set for tonight, I went to look at some Jewish resources on that, and I learned something that I hadn't known before, which is that this text includes the 13 attributes of mercy, which was a phrase I'd not heard of. I'd heard the story, of Moses, being in the cleft of the rock and God's glory passing by, but I hadn't heard this whole thing about the 13 attributes of mercy. So that's interesting. I'd like to learn more about that. But I think it's because it's in God's nature to be merciful that we carry the broken pieces with us, and we don't have to leave them behind, and that they can become and stay part of our story.
I mentioned to Pastor Karen in my office. It's not quite fully refinished after it flooded months ago, but in the space back there that was my office. And just before the service that we recite those, when she mentioned to me the 13 attributes, that we recite them before the Ark on holidays, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, right? Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun. And we're probably most familiar with it, although it's all the Jewish holidays on the high holy days, because that's when we have a crowd. And we're there, and I was, putting these pieces together, the broken pieces, and carrying them with us, and kind of drawing a new picture. And I had my own little chidush, my own little new insight, is what we would say a chidush is in Hebrew, which is, in many ways, right, we stand, certainly during the high holy days, at a time of forgiveness, at a time of brokenness, right? We stand and say, God, take me with you, into this new year, to a year of life, even though I'm broken, right? Even though I'm not don't live in the wholeness or the fullness that I should, in the way that I should. Take me with you. So I thought that was kind of brought all of these pieces together in a really beautiful way.
Yeah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We're going to turn now to page 253. 253. As we pray for wholeness of body, of mind, of spirit, we ask for healing. And we share the names of those in our community, having trouble keeping things on the podiums today, on those in our community and those in our hearts, as we offer these words of healing.
Holy One, who blessed our mothers, blessed our fathers from ancient days, bless and heal those in our hearts, and hear our prayer as we say their names. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yimalei Rachamim Aleichem, Le'achzikam U'l'rapeh otam, Ve'yishlach lahem Refuah Shlema, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, V'tov Sha'ar Cholei Yisrael. Oh, bless and heal those in our hearts, and hear our prayer as we say their names.
We ask for blessings upon Rebecca Gilman, Hannah Fields Austin, Sue Tobak, Rosin Lefkowitz, Helen Weinfeld, Pam Poliakoff, Connie Shapiro, Kathy Blumenfeld, Caitlin Antrim, Judith Bosworth, Kathy Brewster, Jennifer Rudin, Varian Snyders, Kimberly Zimmerman, Brad Holland, Beatrice Caden, Meg Silton, Serena Postal, Bobby Kay, Marilyn Freeman, Robert Strober, Marilyn Lubarski, Ellery Einstein, Ken Mitchell, Patricia Kramer, Bavini Feldman, James Cecile, Esther Bespris, Joan Morse, Nomi Kravitz, Craig Sachs, Simon Saul, Blair Pollitt, Myra White, David Grossman, Lori Snyder, Jeremy Knoller, Charity Razadeh, Mike Klein, Lily Morrison, Reed Gratz, Sarah Coachman, Richard Handley, Barbara Fass, Jessica Calderwood-Kubel, Joel Beasy, Burton Gershman, Carol Berlant, Nancy Aiden, Janet Barong, Rabbi Stan Levy, Paula, and Judy Rose, and all of those in our hearts at home, and those who you'd like to mention here as I come around to your room.
Kadosh Baruch Imalei Rachamim Aleichem. Oh, bless and heal those in our hearts, and hear our prayer as we say their name.
I'd like to invite Jeff Pass to share some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. It's so good to be with so many of you tonight, and for those of you who are watching virtually, if you haven't experienced the joys of attending Shabbat services with a group of people, come and join us. It's just delightful to see everybody of all different kinds of ages. Thank you to Rabbi for his inspiring words. Thank you to Cantor Bush for his always excellent music and particularly good guitar picking tonight. Dr. Randy Polivoy for always magnificent performances. And to Claudia Gonzalez for handling all of this very complicated video. We thank the many volunteers, indoor and outdoor greeters, Deborah Norden, Gary Gilbert, Dina Benjamin, Lori Borer, Lance Watsky, and the always important challah baggers, Sharon Sachs-Rigoletto and Phyllis Blackie. This is a volunteer-led organization. We really need volunteers. If you're one of those people who haven't volunteered in a while, there are many, many committees that could really use your help. Check out the Kahila, see one of the possibilities, and volunteer because you are needed. I want to thank and welcome our friends from Claremont Presbyterian Church. Mark your calendars for 2028 when we celebrate our 50th year together. On a more short-term basis, next Saturday morning, February 26th from 9 until 10:30, we'll have a presentation from Rabbi Joshua Garraway entitled Jewish Utopia, Can We Really Repair the World? That will be worth checking out. 2 Shabbats from now, on March 4th, we will have our Refugee Shabbat, and our guest speaker will be Ann Thorwood, who's president of the Newcomers Access Center. And we are quite involved in refugee services, and you can learn a lot about what we're doing. We do not turn away from those who are needy. That's what makes me proud to be a Jew and a member of TBI. Shabbat Shalom.
And we have, you noticed a number of upcoming B'nai Mitzvah that were with us this evening. So to the three of you who helped lead this evening, first of all, you did a great job, all of you, and it was wonderful to have you here. And we look forward, one of the reasons they're here is they all have pretty quick upcoming B'nai Mitzvah. So we are excited to be celebrating with you soon. And wishing you good luck in the days to come, and Mazel Tov on your upcoming B'nai Mitzvah. We're going to turn now to page 200. Oh, one other thing, the Josh Garraway lecture, you'll see it in your TBI email. It's an online lecture for a lot of synagogues in the area, so don't come here for it if you're doing that, because there won't be anybody here.
Unless you want to come to Austin's bar mitzvah.
Yeah, that'll be during Austin's bar mitzvah, I think, right, at the same time. But that'll be here. Josh Garraway won't be here. That's an online thing. All right. We will turn to page 282 in the middle of the page for Aleinu L'Shabeach. And I ask you, if you're able to, please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי ארצו, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Page 294. We take a moment to remember those who have been important in our lives and have left this earth, and those who have died in recent days or at this time in years past. Before we turn to those who we've already had services for, who are on our Kaddish list, people should have received an email today. And there'll be a service this coming week, either Wednesday or Thursday, but we don't know yet, for Rob Heyman, who tragically passed away this week. And so just keep an eye out for that, and that information about the service that will be coming up this week. We remember the recent deaths of Nancy King, wife of Harvey, of Juan Madrid, father of David Madrid, of Julius Joe Kummerman, father of Howard Kummerman. We remember the Yortzites, the anniversaries of the deaths of Olga Estrin, Katie Zwelling, Joseph Lambert, Susan Maloney, Esther Mojo, Ann Richmond, Herbert Stone, Anna Tarlow, Jack Wagman, Patricia Bohr, Susan Frankel, Richard Friedman, Ludwig Greenthal, Lillian Hyman, Mary Langsam, Irving D. Ryan, Margaret Trantham, Philip Fenning, David Miller, Harry Recken, Harold Schilling, Ida Silks, David Zogut, Sylvia Zuckerman, Polly Cardona, Minnie Fisher, Bertha Flamholtz, Till Goldberg, Joseph Mendelson, Samuel Rosenblum, Brenda Rosenfeld, Morris Sopkin, Sarah Horowitz, Nematola Lalazarian, Lena Shapiro, Reuven Kaplan, Chaim Kaufman, Harold Mort Morrison, Jill Norden, Felix Aaron Norden, Abba Raisin, Shirley Roth, Henry Siegel, Mary Schultz-Weiss, and Belle C. Wilk. If you're remembering somebody on this Shabbat would like to add their name to those that I've mentioned or restate a name I've mentioned, please feel free to do so as I come by your row. If you're in a time of mourning or observing a yard site on the Shabbat, I invite you to please rise. And I invite everybody else, if it's your custom, to rise and embrace in support of those who mourn. Kaddish is on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'alma divrach yeruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. B'chayachon v'yomachon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lomei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechamata. Ta'amiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. And we'll conclude our service with Biyado, which is on page 321. And then don't move, and we'll make Kiddush and Motzi here on the Bima, and then there'll be some Chalanash for you as we leave this evening. 321, last stanza on the page.
Beyado avkinuchi, Beynishan ve'alira, Be'imruchi geviati, Adonai li velo ira, Be'imruchi geviati, Adonai li. My soul I give to you.
My soul I give to you. My spirit in your care.
Draw me near, I shall not fear.
Draw me near, I shall not fear.
Hold me in your hand.
Hold me in your hand.
Draw me near. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Safely in your hand. My soul I give to you. My spirit in your care. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Hold me in your hand. Draw me near, I shall not fear. Safely in your hand.
My
Beyado avkinuchi, Be'tishan ve'ayira, Be'imruchi geviati, Adonai li velo ira,
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikrei kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, v'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz, Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Thank you for being here, or thank you for being there if you are online. Wherever you are, thank you for being with us, and hope to see you soon. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.